Welcome to the first Impaired and Impacted Streams Initiative tutorial video. A couple housekeeping notes to begin with. The Impaired and Impacted Streams Initiative, known as the IISI, is a sub-program of the Agriculture Cost Share Program, and it is designed to promote targeted agricultural practice implementation to address water quality deterioration and documented impairments. Special funds known as Impaired and Impacted Funds, or II funds, are available to districts participating in the program. Districts that are interested in participating in the IISI and receiving II funds must accomplish a number of things before they are able to participate. Those things include annually identifying up to 3 Huck 12 scale watersheds that contain water bodies that are impaired or impacted by agricultural non-point source pollution, making sure that they have a survey response submitted for each of those watersheds identified, updating the district's local ACSP ranking form each annual year to prioritize practice implementation in the up to 3 Huck 12 scale watersheds that were identified and expected to be receiving II funds to support implementation in the upcoming fiscal year. Districts must also expect or have active cost share assistance requests in the upcoming fiscal year and have that information by June 1st and request an II fund amount in the district's strategic plan submissions. Those active cost share assistance requests have to be within the watershed. Districts must also have demonstrated a majority of their II funds that had been previously allocated to them in the prior fiscal year were either encumbered to contracts or had been voluntarily returned through the mid-year process to be reallocated to other districts that could use those funds. Again, a majority of funds means that at least 70% of II funds allocated to the district in the previous fiscal year were encumbered or voluntarily returned mid-year. In this video, we will be covering the first two sections of the fiscal year 2025 Impaired Impacted Streams and Watershed Survey. You can save and return to this survey form by clicking this Login button. Returning users can log in using a form site account that they already have. You can also choose to select new user and create a new account. After that, you can make edits to the form and then hit the Save Progress button at the bottom of the form to save any changes that you make. Other housekeeping items, please take note of the survey deadline. Responses to the fiscal year 2025 Impaired Impacted Streams and Watershed Survey are due by April 12th, 2024. Districts that submitted surveys for fiscal year 2024, so last year, do not have to submit new surveys unless information in previous survey submissions has changed significantly, and this includes resource concerns and expected projects. Districts that submitted surveys last year also do not have to submit new surveys unless they wish to use II funds in a watershed that does not have an approved survey. So again, an IISI survey is needed for each watershed for the upcoming fiscal year in which II funds are expected to be used. You can check approved and active surveys for specific watersheds on the IISI website. Please note if your district wants to use II funds in a watershed crossing into your county that a neighboring district submitted a survey for, please contact the non-point source planning coordinator. You do not have to submit a new separate survey response for that watershed, but information about the portion of the watershed that lies within your county will have to be appended to the survey submission that the other district had submitted. The first section of the survey asks for background details about the survey respondent. Select your district and specify the appropriate contact. For this example, I will choose Roanne, and I will specify my name. The second section of the survey includes questions that are designed to capture water quality concern information. Respondents must first select the appropriate river basin. Respondents then determine the 12-digit hydrologic unit code, or HUC, that they are submitting the survey for. We will only accept survey responses for 12-digit HUC scale watersheds. You can determine the 12-digit code of the watershed you have in mind, the watershed of interest, by using the DSWC IISI survey web map for fiscal year 2025 that is linked underneath question 6. On the IISI webpage, there's also a tool called Find Your Huck. It's a mapper tool that you can use. Both the DSWC created web map and the Find Your Huck mapper tool can be found in the resource links section of the Impaired and Impacted Streams Initiative webpage. You will need to select the watershed on the map in either of those tools to be able to identify the appropriate 12-digit code for the watershed of interest. You can also type in an address or the latitude and longitude for a coordinate point within the watershed into the search bar to find an appropriate watershed code. Please note that the Division of Soil and Water Conservation IISI survey web map for fiscal year 2025 displays watersheds with approved IISI surveys, and it gives details about the county that submitted the survey. It would be great to see cross-county partnership to further target II fund use for watersheds that bridge county boundaries. So I'm going to navigate to the IISI survey web map. I already have it pulled up, but you can see you just need to click the link to be able to navigate to that. You can open this in Map Viewer or Map Viewer Classic. I always recommend opening in Map Viewer Classic so you can see related records. That is not an option in Map Viewer, but at any time you can toggle between the different map views by clicking this button. So just to orient you to the map a little bit, you can see that across the state there are these colored watershed boundaries. These indicate watersheds that already have impacted or impaired surveys approved by DSWC. And I will just click one of them in Rowan County and Cabarrus County. For this watershed, this is the Upper Dutch Buffalo Creek subwatershed. You can read information about what the county submitted for the survey. You'll find that the county that submitted the IISI survey originally was Cabarrus. So given that, Rowan cannot use the IISI survey for this watershed until Rowan County side information of the watershed is appended to the original survey. So if Rowan is interested in receiving II funds and putting II funds in this watershed and using the survey that Cabarrus already submitted for that watershed, they just need to contact me and provide information that I request from the Rowan County side of that watershed that was not factored into the original survey submission that was prepared by Cabarrus Soil and Water District. So that's an example. You can see when I zoomed into the map, there is additional layers that were quickly becoming clear and available. These are NC water streams and rivers and lakes and estuaries. All of this data is 2022 integrated reporting data. So the green segments are stream segments and water bodies that had no data in 2022. Blue indicate that they had monitoring data, and that monitoring data indicates that that water body is meeting state criteria. Gray is data inconclusive based on monitoring results. Pink, purple, and red indicate that there is an impairment and exceedance of state water quality criteria or standards for that water segment. And this again is 2022 integrated reporting data. You'll also notice that I have loaded in this map surface water classifications. So if you select a stream segment, you can toggle between surface water classification information, which is available here. So we can see that this water body is a class C. And if you don't know what that designation is, you can click this more info button and it'll direct you to surface water classifications and give you information on what a class C water is. If you toggle between the different pop-up windows that come up, you'll also see the integrated reporting data for that segment. And that gives you the assessment unit number, which is basically an ID number, one of the ID numbers available for that segment. And you'll also be able to see the classification for that segment as well. And then you'll also see that there is a show related records option available, and you can see water quality monitoring data for that segment. So in 2022, for that cycle, we're assuming that that water segment is meeting criteria, or the state has made that assumption for benthos based on data collected in 2002. All right, so just going back to our survey here, we need to answer the river basin and watershed code information. I do have a demo site that I'm going to just quickly plug into this mapper tool to demonstrate that and move forward with this demo survey. So when I plug in this address, you can see the watershed that this point is within. So I will select it and I can find the HUC 12 information for that watershed, copy it, paste it in here. Make sure that it pastes all 12 digits. Sometimes it doesn't do things correctly, but I can see that I had left off a 3 there. So now I'm sure that that's 12 digits. Please include leading zeros in the code that you type in here. I do have a little extra prompt for that, but the number that is included in this section has to be 12 digits long. And so you need to include leading zeros if there are those within the code. For the river basin, you can again navigate back to the mapping tool, and I can see the river basin name that this watershed is within, so I'll choose the Yadkin PD. For question 7, you must select the primary agricultural pollutant contributors to water quality concerns in the watershed specified. For this example, I will select sediment and pathogens such as fecal coliform or E. coli. To answer this question, you may need to familiarize yourself with water quality monitoring data available through Division of Water Resources Biannual Integrated Report. You may also be aware of common resource concerns in this area based on field visit and cooperator assistance requests. There may also be an existing watershed management or action plan that describes the primary agricultural pollutant contributors in the selected area that you can review. Moving on to question 8. Question 8 requires review of local and state records of existing local watershed plans. There are a number of links that you may need to review to determine if the watershed does have a watershed action, restoration, or management plan. So those links are linked below that question here. If you select yes, then you will be expected to describe the remediation efforts discussed in the plan. If you select no, there'll be a couple of follow-up questions that pop up and asking if there is interest by local stakeholders within the conservation partnership or outside of it in developing a watershed action plan. And if you select yes to that, you'll be asked to list specific stakeholder contact information there for those that are interested in being involved with or organizing local watershed planning activities. If you select no, then you do not have additional follow-up questions. So we need to navigate to the links here to check if the watershed as a watershed action, restoration, or management plan. So this first map can sometimes take some time to load. You can search by specific plan names. A lot of times the plan name is the watershed name. So if I go back to my mapping tool and I can see the sub-watershed name, I can search Second Creek or Upper Second Creek in this mapping tool just to see if there is anything. So there's nothing in this mapping tool, at least. I'll also just zoom into Salisbury, which is in Rowan County, just to see if it's pretty obvious if there's any. This is Rowan County, just to see if there's any watershed action plans. I just am getting the name wrong or something that might be here. And I'm not saying any watershed plans that are identified in this mapping tool. So I'll move over to the next tool for me to check, which is this watersheds eligible for 319. In this mapping tool, I do have the ability to search by address. So I'm just going to copy that same address that I used when trying to identify the appropriate watershed code. And I'm going to type that, zoom in, When I zoom out, I can see that this point is within this kind of long, thin watershed. Again, this matches the watershed of interest that we had specified in question 6. I can see that it is blue, which can indicate that there is a 9-element plan associated with that watershed. You can see that the plan name is Second Creek. Sometimes there is information that is available here, this more info link, which you can click. I do get an error when I click that link, so don't worry about it if you run into errors with that. This mapping tool is not as up to date as it probably should be, but this does give us information that there is a plan for that watershed. So we can navigate to our last link and just search the name Second Creek. And we can see, yep, there is a plan and it's in the Yadkin River Basin. So that makes sense. We can click that plan, kind of read through it, and learn what it recommends. So for question 8, to answer this, is this watershed covered by an active local watershed management or action plan? Yes, it is. It has a 9-element watershed plan. I have already reviewed this plan, so I have prepared a statement to add for this question. Basically, that the plan suggests implementation of 14 types of agricultural best management practices to mitigate sedimentation and fecal coliform water quality concerns, and they include the ones listed in that section. All right, so the next 2 questions, just going to go ahead and scroll down here for you to see this full section, are questions 9 and 10. And these questions ask survey respondents to determine if water bodies in the Huck 12 scale watershed specified are impaired and or impacted. The word stream is listed in the survey questions, but please add information for other water bodies like lakes or estuaries. So add that information for those other water bodies if those bodies are experiencing impairments or deteriorating water quality. Respondents must specify yes to either question 9 or 10 for the survey to be counted. So you can't select no to both these questions and have it be approved by DSWC. You do have to specify yes to either question 9 or 10 and answer the follow-up questions that pop up when yes is selected. So impaired waters have a rigid definition. These waters have segments that are exceeding state water quality standards for one or more parameters based on state-approved water quality monitoring data. Segments of waters determined to be impaired are listed on the state's biannual 303D list. The latest 303D list published was in 2022 based on 2020 monitoring data. Impacted waters are defined less precisely. Impacted waters are determined by districts and are based on local knowledge of agricultural activity, waterways, and the watershed as a whole. An impacted determination may be based on many considerations, including data inconclusive determinations in monitoring data, exceedances found in monitoring data that are not yet statistically significant for inclusion of the water on the 303D list, water quality classification drops between the last 2 water quality integrated reporting efforts, recommendations in local watershed or basin plans, and district documented resource concerns based on field observations or cooperator requests. Please know that the Division of Soil and Water Conservation has created a web map displaying water body segments that received a data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform and turbidity water quality standards. That impact list is here. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Again, I like to use Map Viewer, so I'm just going to go ahead and choose to be in that frame. If you want to use sorry, I like Map Viewer Classic. If you want to use Map Viewer, then you can do that. But this is the map that was created that displays water body segments that received a data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform and turbidity water quality standards. These ratings indicate that there could be a water quality degradation occurring as a result of non-point source pollution, which could be agricultural in origin. You'll notice in this map that some segments included exceeded other water quality criteria and subsequently were included on the state's 303D list for 2022, regardless of their Category 3 data inconclusive rating for turbidity or fecal coliform. So those are all the red, pink, and purple segments. Districts may use the map to make impacted water determinations, although water is not included on the mapping tool, may also be determined to be impacted based on some of the other considerations I've previously discussed. Again, this mapper tool is linked in the survey itself. It's also available on the IISI webpage. So if I zoom into this mapper tool, you can see that, okay, yeah, this segment is red, which indicates there's at least one Category 5 assessment, and I can assume that that segment is popping up on the 303D list. So for that segment, it's not really impacted is the best definition for it since it exceeded at least one water quality criteria. At the state level, it is considered impaired, but for this white segment or gray segment, I can see that when I pull up the related records that it had a 3A data inconclusive rating for turbidity. It also had a 3A data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform. It met criteria for all the other things. So it would not show up on the 303D list, but these data inconclusive ratings for those two parameters may indicate that there are non-point source pollution issues that might be agricultural in origin that are contributing to the water quality issues being seen in that segment. For this particular example, I mean, it's such an urban area that it's likely not agricultural in origin, although possibly outside of those municipal boundaries could be, farms and such that might be contributing to issues with this segment. But just because a segment has that 3A rating for turbidity and fecal coliform does not mean that it's always agricultural non-point source pollution. So take a look at the municipal boundaries, the urban sprawl associated, which might be contributing to data inconclusive ratings for specific segments as well. So again, that mapping tool and resources available to districts that are making those impacted designations. It is a resource available. It is not required to be used. And it is not the only resource that can be used to make an impacted designation. All right, scrolling up to question 9. Question 9 asks if there's any 303D listed streams in the HUC 12 watershed specified. Again, the word stream is used in the survey question, but add information for other water bodies if there are documented impairments for those other water bodies like lakes or estuaries in that watershed. To determine if your watershed has any 303D listed waters, you may use the DSWC IISI Survey Web Map Fiscal Year 2025 tool. Again, that is linked up here before the start of question 9. We've been using that tool already to determine that HUC 12 information. A quick note is that all of the data that is in this DSWC mapper tool and also data that's available in other mapper tools that are linked on the IISI webpage, they are all publicly available. So if you're interested, you can bring those layers and create your own tool in ArcGIS or Google Earth desktop environments to be able to make some of these determinations yourself and not have to rely on these web tools if it's easier to do it in your own desktop environment. So if you need access to specific layers, you can always contact the non-point source planning coordinator to ask how to be able to get those. You can also just search Department of Environmental Quality's GIS web portal page, as well as Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services web portal page for publicly available layers. So we are using the mapper tool in the web version to fill out the survey. So I'll continue using it. And in looking at this watershed of interest, I can see that I do have 2 separate streams here that are green in color, which indicates that there's no monitoring data for those, but I do see that there is a impaired Category 5 designation for one of the stream segments here. And so I can see, if by selecting that stream segment, information about that segment. And again, you can toggle through those pop-up windows to try and capture all of the information that you would like to about that segment. If I show the related records, again, show related records only pops up in the Map Viewer Classic environment. But I can see from 2022 cycle data that for this segment, turbidity state criteria was exceeded. We also had a data inconclusive designation for fecal coliform parameter in this segment as well. If we go back to our survey, we would select yes, this watershed does have an impaired stream segment, because again, that stream segment is within the watershed and it is a category 5 segment. And I should list in information about that stream segment. So I'm going to move this mapping tool over here so it's a little easier to toggle. I can see that the name of the creek is Second Creek, North Second Creek. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that information. And then the next question, question 9B, asks for the assessment unit number here. So if we go back again to our mapping tool, we can see that we have an assessment unit number. We also have an assessment unit ID. Doesn't really matter which one you specify. I specifically asked for assessment unit number here. So I would recommend that you just use that. But if you want to use the AUID, that is fine to include as well. So whatever is easier, just so we know what segments are being discussed in this survey. Again, when you look at the related tables information from the mapping tool, we can see the cause of impairment. If you go to the 303D list itself and search Second Creek, North Second Creek, again, our assessment unit number is the same. The parameter that exceeded criteria was this turbidity. So to answer question 9C, we would just select whatever parameters had exceedance violations. You'll remember that there is also a data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform for this stream segment, but that is not an exceedance, so we shouldn't specify that information in question 9C. You can specify that in question 12, which asks for additional information. All right, question 10 asks if there's any streams within the watershed not on the 303D list that are particularly impacted by agricultural activity or other sources of impairment. Again, the word stream is used in the survey question, but please add information for other water bodies if those water bodies are experiencing water quality deterioration, prompting an impacted designation. Although not necessary, you can choose to fill out question 10 even if you selected yes to question 9. So for this example, if I happen to know, based on resource concerns and other knowledge about these other creeks, which are Sloan's Creek and Care Creek, that there was water quality deterioration happening on those water bodies because of agricultural activity, likely, then I can specify that under question 10, and I can say yes, and then I can list the stream names, and I can specify the water quality concerns that were identified within those streams. For this example, I'm not going to do that, but again, you do have to answer yes to either question 9 or question 10. If you have information to fill in for question 10, please do. And again, if you select yes to question 10, there will be sub-questions that you do have to complete. Just another quick note, if there is monitoring data, make sure that that connects with the resource concerns that you specified in the watershed for question 7. So for question 9, we had a turbidity exceedance for that Second Creek stream segment. And so that would indicate that, again, a water quality concern in the watershed is sediment. So that connects. We also had that data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform in that stream segment, which again would connect with a issue related to pathogens or E. coli. So just make sure that when you're filling out information for water quality concerns in this entire section, that you consider all of these questions and how they might be interrelated to one another before, you hit submit. All right. Question 11 asks survey takers to check items if they appear in the impaired or impacted waters specified above, as well as in the HUC 12 watershed. Please select all that appear. The division encourages districts that have the interest and capacity to complete stream walks and visual assessments to document resource concerns. NRCS has guidance and resource sheets available for the Stream Visual Assessment Protocol SVAP2 in the Field Office Technical Guide, as well as in AgLearn. The SVAP2 summary sheet is also linked on the IISI website under the resource links section. For this example, I will select livestock access and outfall pipes and sources as being items that appear in the impaired impacted streams and in the watershed above. So I'll select outfall pipes and livestock access. Question 12 is an optional open comment space to allow survey takers to share additional information about the current water quality problems in the specified watershed and in the impaired or impacted streams specified above. For this example, I'll add a comment about upstream development impacting stream banks in the watershed. I will also add in information about the data inconclusive rating for fecal coliform. I already prepared the statement. I'm just going to copy and paste it in. And with that, that concludes our first tutorial video covering the first two sections of the fiscal year 2025 Impaired and Impacted Streams and Watershed Survey. Please watch the second tutorial video for an overview of how to complete the final sections of the survey. Thank you for watching.